There is a strange thing about money that most people never notice. The harder they chase it, the faster it seems to run. People wake up every day grinding, stressing, pushing, worrying, hustling like their life depends on it. And still they feel broke, stuck, or barely getting by. But there is a hidden law operating behind the scenes, a law that many people overlook. And once you understand it, something powerful begins to happen. Money no longer feels like something you must hunt down. Instead, it begins to hunt you. Hunt. Now that might sound wild at first. Some folks hear that and think, yeah, right, if that were true, everybody would be rich. But the truth is, most people are playing the wrong game. They believe money comes from struggle, from anxiety, from forcing things. They believe the harder life feels, the more real the success must be. But the deeper spiritual law says something completely different. It says your inner state is the magnet. What you believe, expect, and claim mentally sets the stage for what shows up physically. Think about it like this. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to attract opportunities without trying? They meet the right people, doors open for them, random blessings pop up, checks come in, deals appear, connections form. Meanwhile, someone else might be hustling twice as hard and still feels invisible. The difference isn't luck. The difference is alignment. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that life responds to our spoken word and inner expectation. Your subconscious mind is always listening. When you keep saying things like, money is hard to get, I'm always broke, nothing works for me, you are literally programming your life to prove those statements true. The universe doesn't argue with you. It just says, okay, if that's what you believe, let's make it happen. But the moment you flip that script, everything begins to shift. Instead of saying, money is hard to get, imagine waking up and declaring, money flows to me in surprising ways. Instead of saying, I never get opportunities, you start saying, opportunities are looking for me right now. That might sound simple, maybe even a little crazy at first. But words carry energy, thoughts carry direction, and when those two combine with faith and expectation, the law begins to move. You see, money is not just paper or numbers on a screen, it is energy responding to value, confidence, and belief. When someone walks around constantly worried about bills, stressed about the future, and convinced that life is always against them, their energy becomes tight and defensive. It's like they are mentally shouting, lack, lack, lack. And guess what keeps showing up? More situations that match that frequency. But when a person understands the hidden law, they start moving differently. They stop acting desperate. They stop begging life for scraps. Instead, they begin expecting supply. They begin speaking abundance like it's normal. They walk with quiet confidence because they know something good is always on its way. And here's where it gets interesting. Once your mindset changes, your actions naturally change too. You start noticing ideas you never saw before. You talk to people with more confidence. You take chances that once felt scary. And suddenly, life begins opening doors that used to look locked. You might bump into someone who offers a business idea. You might get an unexpected call about a job or partnership. You might discover a creative path that starts generating income in ways you never imagined. From the outside, people will say you got lucky, but inside you know something deeper was working the whole time. The hidden law was aligning circumstances with your expectation. Now don't get it twisted. This doesn't mean you sit on the couch waiting for money to fall from the sky. That's not how the law works. The law works through you, through your ideas, your creativity, your courage to move when inspiration hits. But instead of forcing life, you begin cooperating with it. When inspiration pops up, act on it. When you feel guided to learn something new, dive into it. When an opportunity knocks, don't overthink it. Move. Because the universe loves momentum. And here's the coolest part. When you truly trust this law, fear starts losing its grip. Bills no longer scare you the way they used to. Setbacks stop feeling like disasters. You begin seeing them as redirections. Something better is always lining up. People might look at you and say, man, things always seem to work out for you. And you'll smile because you know the secret. You stopped chasing money, You started attracting it. You stopped begging life for opportunity. You started expecting it. You stopped repeating words of lack. You started declaring words of supply, and life responded. Because the truth is, money loves confidence. It loves clarity. It loves people who expect expansion instead of disaster. When your mind becomes a place of abundance instead of anxiety, you send a powerful signal out into the world, and that signal brings results. So the next time you catch yourself worrying about money, pause for a second. Don't feed the fear. Flip the script. Speak something better. Expect something better. Move like something better is already unfolding. Because once you understand this hidden law, the whole game changes. Money stops being something you desperately chase and starts becoming something that finds its way to you. Most people spend their entire lives believing that money only comes through struggle, pressure, and endless chasing. They wake up early, rush through their day, grind at work, worry about bills, stress about the future, and constantly feel like they are running after something that keeps moving further away. It's like being on a treadmill that never stops. The harder they run, the more exhausted they become, yet their financial situation doesn't seem to improve much. And over time, they begin to believe that this struggle is normal. They think that money simply has to be difficult, that life is supposed to feel like a constant fight just to stay afloat. But what most people never realize is that the real battle is not happening in the outside world. It is happening inside their own mind. Every thought you repeat about money becomes a quiet instruction to your subconscious mind. The subconscious is always listening, always recording, always working behind the scenes. It does not judge whether your thoughts are good or bad, true or false. It simply accepts them and begins organizing your experiences to match them. So when someone constantly says things like, "I'm always broke," "money disappears so fast," "I never have enough," or "everything is getting expensive," those words are not just casual complaints. They are mental commands. Think about it for a second. If you repeat the same negative belief about money every day, year after year, what do you think your mind is going to create? Your mind will start noticing every situation that proves your belief right. You'll notice the bills, the unexpected expenses, the slow months, the missed opportunities. Your focus locks onto lack, and the more you focus on lack, the more real it becomes. It's almost like tuning into a radio station. If your mental station is set to scarcity, that's the only signal you'll receive. Every experience begins to match that frequency. Someone offers you an opportunity, but you doubt it and pull back. A new idea pops into your mind, but you dismiss it because you assume it won't work. A connection appears that could help you grow, but fear tells you to play it safe. Without realizing it, your beliefs quietly close doors before they even have a chance to open. And here's the tricky part. Most people don't even notice they're doing this. The language of lack becomes normal. Friends talk about how broke they are. Social media is filled with jokes about being poor until payday. People complain about the economy, the job market, the cost of living. Before long, those thoughts become part of the daily mental environment. But the hidden law works whether you understand it or not. Life tends to reflect the expectations you consistently hold. If deep down you expect money to be scarce, your decisions, reactions, and focus will unconsciously support that expectation. It's not that the world is against you. It's that your inner belief system is quietly steering your experience. Florence Scovel Shinn explained this idea in a very simple way. She said that words and thoughts are seeds. Whatever you plant in your mind eventually grows into visible conditions. If you plant seeds of fear, worry, and lack, those seeds will eventually produce situations that match them. But if you plant seeds of confidence, supply, and expectation, something very different begins to grow. Now, that doesn't mean you ignore reality or pretend problems don't exist. It simply means you stop feeding the story of lack. Instead of constantly reinforcing the idea that money is hard to get, you begin introducing a new idea into your mind. That supply is always possible, that opportunities can appear in surprising ways, and that life has more paths than you might currently see. At first, this shift might feel strange. Your mind might argue with you. If you've spent years believing money is difficult, a new belief won't instantly feel natural. But repetition slowly changes the mental pattern. The more you replace old thoughts with new ones, the more your mind begins to accept them. And something interesting starts happening. When the belief in lack loosens its grip, your awareness begins to expand. You start noticing possibilities that once slipped past you. You may discover a new skill you can monetize, an idea for a side project, a person who opens a door to a new opportunity, or a creative way to solve a financial problem that once felt overwhelming. From the outside, it may look like luck. But inside, a deeper shift has occurred. Your mind is no longer locked onto scarcity, it is open to supply. People who live with this awareness don't walk around obsessed with money problems. They don't spend all day worrying about the worst-case scenario. Instead, they develop a quiet expectation that things can work out, that solutions can appear, and that life often responds to a confident mind. This expectation subtly changes how they move through the world. They speak differently. They make decisions with more courage. They explore opportunities instead of automatically rejecting them. And because their energy is no longer trapped in fear, they naturally attract better circumstances. In other words, the moment you stop constantly reinforcing the belief that you are broke, the possibility of something different begins to appear. The hidden law starts with awareness. Once you realize that your thoughts about money are shaping your experience, you gain the power to change them. And when your inner story changes, your outer story eventually follows. There is something powerful about the words people speak every day, yet most people treat their words casually, as if they carry no real weight. Someone wakes up in the morning and immediately says, "Man, I'm already tired," or "Another stressful day," or "I'm probably going to be broke after paying these bills." They laugh about it, thinking it's just normal conversation. But words are not empty sounds. Words are declarations, and every declaration sends a signal to the subconscious mind. Florence Scovel Shinn often emphasized that the spoken word has creative power. When you say something with emotion and repetition, your subconscious begins to accept it as truth. And once the subconscious accepts something as truth, it quietly begins shaping your behavior, your focus, and even the opportunities you notice around you. It's almost like your mind becomes a magnet, pulling in situations that match what you keep saying. Think about how often people repeat negative money statements without realizing it. They say things like, "Money disappears the moment I get it," or "I'm terrible with money," or "There's never enough." Sometimes these phrases are said jokingly, but the subconscious mind does not understand jokes. It only understands repetition and emotion. If you repeat the same phrase often enough, your mind begins to build a reality around it. Imagine someone who constantly says, "I never have enough money." Over time, that phrase becomes a belief. Because it becomes a belief, their mind automatically looks for proof that the statement is true. When bills arrive, they feel stress and think, "See, I knew it." When an opportunity appears that could improve their finances, doubt shows up immediately because their mind has already accepted the story of lack. The belief quietly shapes their actions, their confidence, and even their willingness to try something new. But here is where the law becomes incredibly interesting. The same power that reinforces lack can also create abundance. If negative words can program the mind for struggle, positive and intentional words can program the mind for opportunity and supply. That is why Florence Scovel Shinn encouraged people to speak affirmations with confidence. She understood that words spoken with belief begin to form new mental patterns. When someone starts saying things like, "Money flows to me easily," or "Opportunities are finding me," or "I always have more than enough," those words start planting new seeds in the subconscious. At first, the mind might resist. If someone has spent years believing money is difficult, a new statement about abundance might feel unfamiliar. The mind might whisper, "That's not true," or "You're just saying that." But repetition is powerful. The more often you repeat a new idea, the more familiar it becomes. And the subconscious gradually begins accepting the new pattern. Think of it like updating a mental script. For years, the script might have been filled with lines about scarcity and limitation. But when you intentionally introduce new words, the script slowly changes. The mind starts expecting new possibilities instead of repeating old fears. And when expectations change, behavior changes too. Someone who repeatedly speaks words of confidence begins to carry themselves differently. They approach conversations with more openness. They notice opportunities they might have ignored before. They trust their ideas a little more. They are willing to try new things because their mind is no longer locked into the belief that nothing works for them. Words also influence emotion, and emotion influences energy. When someone constantly talks about lack, their emotional state becomes tense and defensive. They operate from worry and caution. But when someone speaks words of abundance and expectation, their emotional state becomes lighter and more hopeful. They feel possibility instead of pressure. That shift in emotional energy can change the way people respond to you as well. Confidence is attractive. Optimism is magnetic. When you speak with expectation instead of doubt, others begin to feel that energy. They are more likely to trust your ideas, collaborate with you, or introduce you to opportunities. This is one reason why successful people often speak differently than those who feel stuck. They rarely repeat phrases of defeat. Instead, they talk about possibilities, growth, expansion, and solutions. Their words reflect what they expect life to deliver. Another interesting aspect of the spoken word is how it directs attention. Your brain naturally looks for evidence that supports what you say. If you repeatedly declare that opportunities are coming your way, your mind becomes more alert to situations that could confirm that statement. You begin noticing things you might have ignored before. A conversation that leads to a partnership, an idea that becomes a side project, a chance meeting that opens a door. To someone watching from the outside, it might look like coincidence or luck, but internally, your mind has already been tuned to recognize and act on those possibilities. Of course, speaking positive words does not mean ignoring responsibility or refusing to take action. Words are not magic spells that instantly drop money into your lap. Instead, they create a mental and emotional environment that supports growth. They remove the constant pressure of fear and replace it with expectation. And expectation is powerful. When you expect good things, you prepare for them. You move with more courage. You take chances that once felt intimidating. You introduce yourself to people you might have avoided before. You share ideas without immediately assuming they will fail. All of these small changes add up. So the real secret behind the spoken word is not just the words themselves, it is the shift they create inside your mind. They change how you see yourself, how you see opportunities, and how you move through the world. Once your words begin aligning with abundance instead of lack, life gradually starts reflecting that new message back to you. And what once felt impossible begins to look surprisingly possible. There is something fascinating about the way confidence changes the flow of money and opportunity in a person's life. It's not always the smartest person, the most educated person, or even the hardest working person who attracts wealth. Many times, it is the person who believes deeply that success belongs to them. That belief creates a certain energy, a certain presence, and that presence quietly influences everything around them. When someone truly expects success, they move differently. You can see it in the way they talk, the way they make decisions, even the way they walk into a room. They are not constantly second-guessing themselves. They are not waiting for someone else to give them permission. Instead, they carry an inner certainty that things can work out in their favor. Now, this kind of confidence is not arrogance. It is not about bragging or pretending to be better than anyone else. It is simply a calm belief that opportunities exist and that you are capable of recognizing and receiving them. Florence Scovel Shinn often suggested that expectation is one of the most powerful forces in life. When you expect good things, your mind begins to prepare for them, and your actions start aligning with that expectation. Think about two people walking into the exact same situation. One person believes nothing ever works out for them. They think opportunities are rare, success is difficult, and the odds are always against them. Because of this belief, they approach everything with hesitation. When a chance appears, their mind immediately jumps to reasons why it might fail. They might say things like, "That probably won't work," or "Someone else is already doing it better," or "I'm not ready for that yet." Before they even try, doubt has already closed the door. Now imagine another person in the same room. This person carries a different belief. They think there's always a way, or something good could come from this, or let me see where this leads. Because they expect opportunities, they stay open and curious. They ask questions, they share ideas, they introduce themselves to people. They explore possibilities instead of shutting them down. Both people had access to the same environment, the same conversation, the same moment in time. Yet their experiences will likely be completely different. One walks away with nothing but confirmation of their doubts, while the other might leave with a new contact, a fresh idea, or the beginning of a partnership. The difference was not luck, the difference was belief. Confidence also changes how others respond to you. Human beings naturally feel drawn to people who seem sure of themselves. When someone speaks with clarity and belief, others sense that energy. It creates trust. It makes people more willing to listen, collaborate, or invest time and resources into that person's ideas. On the other hand, when someone constantly doubts themselves, that uncertainty becomes visible. Their voice may sound hesitant. Their body language might signal insecurity. Even if they have a great idea, people may struggle to feel confident about it because the person presenting it doesn't fully believe in it. Money often follows confidence because confidence leads to action. When you trust your abilities, you are more willing to try things that once felt intimidating. You might start a small project, launch a service, pitch an idea, apply for a better opportunity, or connect with someone who could help you grow. Each action opens a new possibility, and here is where things become interesting. Many opportunities in life are not obvious at first. They often appear as small chances that require someone to take the first step. A conversation might turn into a business partnership. A simple idea could evolve into a profitable venture. A casual connection might introduce you to someone who changes the direction of your career. But if fear stops you from taking the first step, those possibilities never unfold. Confidence acts like a key that unlocks those doors. It gives you the courage to step forward even when the outcome is uncertain. It allows you to explore paths that others might avoid because they are too busy worrying about what could go wrong. Another powerful effect of confidence is how it shapes your focus. When you believe success is possible, your mind naturally begins looking for ways to achieve it. You start noticing patterns, solutions, and resources that once seemed invisible. Your creativity expands because you are no longer trapped in the mindset of limitation. For example, someone who believes they can increase their income may begin thinking about new skills they could learn, new markets they could explore, or new ways to provide value to others. Their mind becomes active with ideas because their belief tells them that growth is possible. But someone who believes money is always difficult rarely reaches that stage of creative thinking. Their focus stays fixed on problems instead of possibilities. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that faith in your good is a powerful force. Faith does not mean blind optimism. It simply means trusting that life can support you in ways you may not yet see. When that trust becomes part of your mindset, you stop approaching life as if every door is locked. Instead, you approach life expecting that somewhere, somehow, a door will open. This expectation naturally builds confidence, and confidence creates momentum. Each small success strengthens your belief. Each new opportunity reinforces the idea that life is capable of bringing more. Over time, this cycle becomes self-reinforcing. Confidence leads to action. Action leads to results. Results strengthen confidence even more. And eventually, what once felt impossible begins to feel normal. The person who once doubted their ability to attract money now finds themselves surrounded by opportunities. Ideas come faster. Connections grow stronger. Financial possibilities appear more frequently. From the outside, it might look like they suddenly became lucky. But in reality, something much deeper happened. They started believing in the possibility of success, and that belief changed the way they moved through the world, which quietly changed the way the world responded to them. One of the biggest misunderstandings people have about spiritual laws of abundance is the idea that all they have to do is sit back, think positive thoughts, and wait for money to magically appear. That misunderstanding has caused many people to dismiss these principles entirely. They assume that believing in abundance means avoiding effort or responsibility. But that was never the message. The deeper truth is that belief prepares the path, but action walks the path. When your mind becomes aligned with the expectation of opportunity, something interesting begins to happen. Ideas start appearing. Small impulses pop into your mind. You feel nudges to try things you may never have considered before. Sometimes it's a thought like, maybe I should learn this skill, or I should reach out to that person, or there might be potential in this idea. These moments of inspiration are incredibly important because they are often the channels through which opportunity enters your life. But here's where many people hesitate. Even when an idea appears, fear can step in and shut it down. The mind begins asking questions like, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if people judge me? When fear dominates, inspiration fades. The opportunity never gets the chance to develop because the person never acts on it.